right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our IHSA Bass Fishing State Finals meeting. Combination of an organizational meeting and talking about some safety-related matters. My name's Kurt Gibson. I work on the IHSA administrative staff, and on behalf of our entire membership and our staff here at the IHSA, I want to congratulate all of you for qualifying for this weekend's state finals. I have muted everyone. I am recording. Tomorrow morning, you'll get an email from either myself or Emma, who works with me, telling you where you can find a copy of this presentation. Fingers crossed, given how crazy this is working right now, but I feel good about that. We're getting a good recording. And then as we go, I think what would be best is we'll keep everybody muted until the end, and then we can take all questions. Feel free to use the chat area as well for any questions you might have during the night. I'll do my best to get to all of them. Certainly over the next couple of days, if you need to get a hold of me, you'll be able to do that. I'd be happy to answer any and all questions you have. Really want this to be a good experience for all of you, and I thank you in advance for your cooperation. Just making sure, I expect here in a little while we'll be having Doug Wasmuth from the Corps of Engineers down at Carlisle Lake joining us. But while we wait for Doug, we're going to go ahead and get started. Oops. So I want to, welcome you again to the state finals. This really kicks off the week, and we hope it's an enjoyable one for everybody at your school. I always like to say, regardless of the event that I'm working on at a given moment, is that the weekend will go as well as all of the adults work together. And so a big part of that, in my opinion, comes through this meeting, talking about some of the logistics and safety things that go into running this event. So I know that our office wants to welcome you. I know the city of Carlisle wants to welcome you as well. They're going to put out the red carpet for everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about some things that they'll be doing here. We also want to make sure we thank the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and everyone down at Carlisle Lake for their support. We want to thank the Department of Natural Resources, and then we want to thank Major League Fishing as well, because they put on a great show that everybody always gets a kick out of. So let's go through a few things, and we'll sort of go through a schedule of events. We'll get into some other logistical matters, as I've mentioned. But Thursday is an optional pre-fishing day. You are not required to pre-fish. If your school wants to come down and pre-fish, can certainly do that. We will be checking all the boats at Dam West. So if you don't want to launch at Dam West, you don't have to, but we would rather you came through Dam West launch area so we could get your boat checked. And we will be there from 7 to 9:30. And one of the things that when you are going through the line, we'll give you a packet with some information, and your boat number will have numbers, some decals that go on your boat motor. So we refer to you as a boat number, and that's your day one launch number. We'll talk about the launch here in a little bit. But if you're not able to be down at Dam West from 7 to 9:30 a.m., then we'll also do a courtesy check 5:30 to 6:30 at the parking lot at Carlisle High School. And Carlisle High School, when you leave the lake, you'll come to a stop sign, or a stop light, I guess it is, at a McDonald's. You hang a left. It's Route 127. You go down maybe half a mile. You can't miss the school. It's on your right. We'll be there for another hour in the evening, and any boat that's not checked on Thursday, we will check on Friday. I'm getting a little reverb, so I'm going to make sure I mute everybody here. Okay. And if for some reason you're not checked on Thursday, we'll get you Friday. If for some reason you got to change boats Friday to Saturday, we will get you checked in. The Corps of Engineers and the DNR staff will be on site to do the boat checks. We will have the safety check form. You do not need to worry about bringing that. We will have that. Okay, the people checking your boat will have those forms. So just know that Thursday, optional pre-fishing. It ends at 5:30. Got to be off the water then. And as a reminder, schools can only put in the water the number of boats that they have qualified for the event. We do have a small number of schools that qualified 2 boats. Most of the competitors, or most of the schools, I should say, have only 1 boat. So on pre-fish day, only 1 boat. Only the number of boats that your school qualified can be put in the water. And also on pre-fish day, a couple of things. We really try to run that, if you will, in many respects, like one of the competition days. So if you have a roster of more than 2 anglers, you'll have to swap out at some point if you want the others to fish on pre-fish day. And this is a common question, so I'm just going to address it now. If a coach feels like he or she or they need to fish on pre-fish day, uh, we're not stopping that from happening. We really don't have a way to monitor that on Thursday. We don't think it's necessary, but if you're a boat captain or if you're a coach and you want to fish on Thursday, you will not be in trouble. All right, so let's go from Thursday to Friday. And you can see here that check-in, we call it check-in, the park, the Dam West launch area, the parking lot, if you will. And we're gonna see later how we want everybody to line up to come into the launch area later in the presentation. But around 5:45, we'll open the gates and let people start coming in and getting people into the water. We're gonna make sure everybody gets into the water before we get going. Um, Trying to contact here with Doug at the core. Sorry about this. Um, but we will begin weather, of course, weather allowing us to do so at 7 a.m. And then you'll need to begin reporting back at 3 o'clock, depending on your flight. Hopefully, you've seen the launch and the release order. We're gonna talk about that here shortly. But either you're coming back by 3, 3:15, 3:30. We'll have a boat out there on the water just outside the launch area that you'll have to be passed, I should say, in order to be considered back in on time. And then on day 1, once you come out of the water, there's no rhyme or reason to the order that we follow when it comes to showing up for weigh-in. But I would tell you on either day, we're not going to be ready to begin weigh-ins until probably 3:15 or 3:30. So another common question that happens is somebody's got a bag of fish on Friday or Saturday and they want to come in early and get them weighed. We don't do that. We'll try to be ready around 3:15. If we can be ready a little earlier, great, but otherwise you should think weigh-ins will probably begin between 3:15 and 3:30. Saturday looks a lot like Friday in terms of the timing. Really the big difference is on Saturday, the boats will go off in reverse order from Friday. So Friday will go off boats 1 to 75 in order. Once we have all the boats in the water, they idle by the MLF tent. One last check of the live well. Basically, you hang a left and go out past the breaker wall, and you're good to fish. On Saturday, then we go boat 75 back down to 1. When it comes to weigh-ins, one thing we'll do differently is on Saturday, the top 10 boats will sort of hold in the Dam West area, if you will, in the water. We'll hold you in there, and we'll have the top 10 boats weigh in last. So the day 1, 10th place boat, when we get through everybody, 10th place boat will go, then the 9th place boat will come in. You'll be in line, but that's how we'll do the weigh-ins on day 2. So we build up, in theory, to this, crescendo of allowing the boat that was in first place on Friday weigh in last on Saturday to see if they were able to hold their lead. And barring weather, all release and all return is done at Dam West. And again, we're going to see some pictures of that here shortly. So I've talked a little bit about this release, and the boats 1 to 75 were numbered by random draw last Monday. We could go today, actually. They were posted, I think, on Wednesday or Thursday, and we're going to show you where you can find that information if you haven't seen it already. We do have a one boat in our unified competition, and our unified competition is run with the help of Special Olympics. So that's always good to know. The unified boat will go off last each day and have to be back in at the 3 o'clock wave. Now you're going to want to make sure you know your boat number and when your return is, because that will possibly vary from day to day. If you're in one of the first 25 boats that goes out, you've got to be back at 3 o'clock. If you're in the next group of 25, you got to be back by 3:15. And if you're in the last group that goes out, then you have until 3:30 to be past the return boat just outside the Dam West breaker wall. So you just want to know your release or your return time, so you're not penalized in accordance with what the terms and conditions say, which I think is £1 per minute up to 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, if you're late, then your weight just doesn't, your fish don't count for that day. So that release order, here's a snapshot on this slide of the bass fishing website on ihsa.org. Under resources down there at the bottom, if you go to that page right now, if you haven't seen the release order, it's available under that heading. There's also some other information there that might be of interest to you. Hopefully you've seen some of those things there. Again, I would encourage you to look at the safety check form for your boat, but again, you do not need to bring it. We will have copies there for the people doing the boat checks. Okay, one thing I mentioned in an email last week, I thought it was worth probably a reminder here, is that, and I think there was some initial questions from a few folks confusing requirements for a bass fishing coach and being represented at an IHSA event. Those are two different things. And all we're trying to point out here is the Bass Fishing State Finals are no different than any other IHSA event. Every other IHSA event, a school needs to have proper representation at that event. And proper representation is what you see here in the first bullet point. It could be a certified teacher, a school administrator, or a non-faculty coach who meets the requirements for our coaches, which means they've probably taken the ASEP class. If you're a boat captain or a coach and you're not one of those people, that's fine. There's nothing meaning that you can't be there and be active in your role. It's just your school needs to have somebody who meets one of those requirements at Carlisle Lake. So communicate that with your administration if you haven't already. In just some of my work behind the scenes, many of you are okay. Many of your schools, either I know your coach is a certified teacher or an administrator, or I've already had them reach out to your school administrative team, reach out to me, say, we're going to have somebody there. But you're going to want to make sure, so if you aren't a certified teacher or an administrator or a non-faculty coach who meets the requirements of our coaching bylaw, you're going to want to say something to your administration, because that would just be a bad deal for everybody if we found out the school wasn't represented and then we didn't let the boat get out in the water on Friday or Saturday. Another great question that came up last week that I had not thought about talking about, but when the question came up, I said, got to touch on it. The association, believe it or not, has a drone policy. It's called actually the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Policy. And somebody had reached out and asked if they could have a drone with them presumably in their boat, flying above them and filming them while they fish? And the answer is no. If we hear of or see any drones in the area, we will be shutting the tournament down until we know the drone is away from the lake. Hopefully we won't have to confiscate it, but don't bring any drones. Don't bring anything like that, because we will shut the event down if we find out that there's something hovering about the lake. So it was a great question. I'm glad somebody asked it. I forget who, but thanks for asking it. And just don't bring a drone. That's where we're sort of at there. Okay, alternates and weigh-ins. We've touched a little bit on the second part of that. For those of you that have a boat roster that qualified with more than 2 anglers, you can certainly swap out during both or one day, however you want to do that. All the exchanges are made at the Dam West launch site. Later on, I'm going to provide everybody with my cell number if you don't have it. What we simply ask is that when you know you're going to make a sub, give me a call. Give me a little bit of time. We'll make sure somebody is at the launch area. You can bring your boat in. We'll tie it up. You'll get it tied up real quick. Student comes in, student goes off. They bring their gear. It's all good. We'll just double check the live well. But we will have someone there when you want to make that substitution. We always have people milling about, but we'll make sure when you want to do a substitution, we've got somebody there to monitor that. With the weigh-ins, I touched on this. On day one, we just would prefer to have the students up on stage. We'll have a little card we give them before they go up there so that the folks from MLF know who they're dealing with, what school, and their names. But then on day two, we want, if the coach and captain want to come up, that's great. Typically what'll happen on day two is the trailer will come by in front of the crowd. It goes between the stage and the crowd. The team's up there. There's a quick chat with the MLF representative, and then the fish are weighed, and we go on to the next group. And certainly if you don't catch any fish, you're not required to come on stage. Typically people just drive by. We acknowledge them and we say, good job, congratulations on making it to the finals, come on back next year. We'll try to make that unified boat the first boat to weigh in each day. They're usually in, and they're usually the boat that we will weigh in their fish first. Okay, tournament operations. So the bass fishing terms and conditions, which are available back on that page at ihsa.org that we saw a few minutes ago, they're available. They're in your they've been governing the season and competitions throughout, so hopefully you're familiar with those. But as I've said a couple of times, all boats launch and return to Dam West unless, and this is in the terms and conditions, if the weather gets severe enough, I would send out a message to everyone that would say, hey, we've got to evacuate. We're done for the day. We're evacuating the lake. You can get off at any of the safe harbors. But if I don't say that, if I just say, hey, we've got a storm coming, go to an evacuation area, that means you still got to come back to Dam West. If the day is done and you can leave the water somewhere other than Dam West, I will specifically say that in a message. So I hope that doesn't confuse you, that this is different than a weather situation that's going to cause us to take a delay. And this is how that happens. If you haven't seen the materials yet, we've been collecting cell phone numbers for all the coaches and the boat captains. If there's anybody that's been associated with your team and I've got a number for them, I'm going to be putting them into essentially a phone relay system. And what'll happen, and I'm going to do a practice message on Thursday night, probably around 6:30, 7 o'clock. And the message that when the call comes through, it should display my number, which is in the blue. So write that number down, because if you're going to make a sub or if you have a question during the week and you need to get a hold of me, that's the best way. But you'll get a voicemail essentially from me that says, This is Kurt Gibson from IHSA. It's 7:57 on Monday night, and we have severe weather approaching Carlisle Lake. The tournament is being suspended. Please report to one of the safe areas. Boom. And that's your cue. Get to a safe area, and we're going to talk about those. We'll have staff at all the safe areas to check people in, but you just need to clear the lake. When you see somebody and you're going to one of those safe areas, let them know, hey, we're clearing the lake. And then when it's time to go back on the water, we'll let you know. And the thing that I like to tell everybody at this point is we're fortunate to have the local emergency management group from Clinton and Jefferson County available during the tournament. And they are directly connected with the National Weather Service in St. Louis. So sometimes we know weather is approaching and it might look nice out. It might be sunny. It might be no wind. It might be great fishing weather, but we know a storm is approaching. And when you're talking about, having 76 boats evacuate a lake, that doesn't just happen in 2 minutes. So, we want you to make sure you're paying attention to your phone. That's why I collect as many numbers as I can. And I would tell you, some of you are changing boat captains because somebody who was a boat captain at the sectional can't make it to state. I try to catch that and pull their number out if I have it, but sometimes I don't. So any help you can give me on this end to tell a boat captain who's back in your community, hey, they're just trying to keep us safe. I'd appreciate that. I'm not trying to bother anybody unnecessarily with this phone relay system. But that's how we communicate with folks. We talked about the being late and what that means, so know your return time. Life jackets, we're going to talk about that, must be worn at all times, and they must be Coast Guard approved. I'm going to say that again later, but the life jacket needs to be Coast Guard approved. We must be able to see the stamp or the tag that shows us that. If it's not Coast Guard approved, it's not legal. And we'll have some for people that, forget or don't have the Coast Guard approved jackets. But just know that in advance. I can't worry about what's happened, but just know that life jackets that are Coast Guard approved is the standard for this event. Okay, I do want to mention again that coaches, and we're talking about during the tournament on Friday and Saturday, coaches and captains may not fish in any respect. And the terms and conditions talk about that. That basically means you can't touch anything that's the angler's. And the only exception is if there's a boat that has only one student fishing and that student requests some help netting a fish, then and only then can a coach or captain be involved. And unfortunately, we had a tough deal last year where a coach was observed. I think it was actually a boat captain, but he was serving in sort of both capacities in this particular case, fishing during the tournament. And the games committee got together after the day was over, looked into it, talked to the school, and decided that this gentleman had violated the terms and conditions. And I want to read to you what the penalty was for that school. That boat was moved to last in terms of taking off on day 2. This happened on day 1. So that boat, I forget what number it had. It was moved to the back of the launch order. The individual, the coach/captain, was disqualified from the event. And so if the school was going to be able to participate with that boat the next day, they were going to have to find another person who was school board approved to drive those students around. All of the fish caught on day 1 were not allowed to be weighed. The boat took a 0 on its weight for day 1. And then we communicated all of this with the school. So you can see that the penalty was pretty severe. And that will give future games committees, rules committees, some good guidance, I think, in regards to how do you handle this kind of situation. So I just can't emphasize enough to leave the students alone when they're fishing. And the speed limit, as you can see here for the event, is 35 miles per hour. A couple of other reminders about, appropriate fishing etiquette, and we've had some some instances where people haven't been able to get along, and that's really disheartening because as adults we've got to set the right tone this weekend. But appropriate fishing etiquette should be observed. We want to make sure we're using legal lures. We want to make sure we're not hole sitting. We don't want to use cell phones to find fishing patterns from non-competitors. If you've got people there watching and they see somebody hitting on some fish, they shouldn't be calling you saying, hey, get over here, such and such a school slamming it now. Certainly, this is a tobacco-free. That includes e-cigarettes and vaping. It's an alcohol-free. We want to use appropriate language. It is not a requirement that you stay off your phones. We just recommend that the less you're on your phones, probably the better. I think you should have your phones available to make sure there aren't messages coming through. But likely, the less you're on your phones during the event, the better. And then finally, if there is a protest to any of the terms and conditions, if there are any protests, they have to be done in writing, submitted to me before the end of weigh-ins on whichever day the appeal's being made. And I will have the forms, so you would have to see me. I would probably encourage you, and I'm sorry to be doing this. I'm trying to get a hold of Doug, who's Doug with the Corps doesn't have the link to the meeting. I'm trying to get it to him. So I apologize here. I'm going to just type this number in. I apologize, folks. Okay. Go away. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the safety part of this, waiting for Doug. Hopefully he'll be able to join us. We practiced this morning and he did a great job. But I want to give you some idea of the current level of the lake. The lake, the summer pool, they call it, is 445, and you can see they're just slightly over that. The St. Louis area got some rain yesterday. Carlisle got a little bit, 2/10 of an inch, but north of there, they also got hammered. So they had to take some of the water that runs, from the north down to the south. But they expect that come this weekend, they're going to be perhaps just a shade over that 445 pool level. We'll just have to see, how it shakes out. But according to the Corps folks in St. Louis, they're going to open up the valves a little bit more there at Carlisle and get some of that water that came from the north out. So the lake's in really good condition. And for some of you that have been there a handful of times over the years, you know that there's been some years where it's been pretty full, but this year we're in a really great spot. This is the lake, and we'll have a copy of a map in your packet. And we're going to see where the areas are where we want you to go in the event of an evacuation here shortly. But this map sort of summarizes that as well. There will be 5 areas that you can report to. The weather looks pretty good this weekend. The weather looks pretty good. You can see what we're looking at on Friday, a slight chance of some showers, and the showers appear to be mostly the better chances in the morning. It's going to be close to 80. South-south winds, south-southwest winds, 10 miles an hour. And then Saturday, a slight chance of some scattered showers. High is 73 with the low of 55. Let's see, Doug. It's going to try to unmute you here. Doug, can you unmute yourself? I think Doug has joined us. Doug, if you can unmute yourself, go ahead and do that. Then when you're ready, you can jump in. I've just gone over the weather forecast, so now I'm going to talk about the safety zones. And there are 5 of them.
Yes.
You there, Doug?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Sorry, I'm so sorry about it, everyone. I don't know what's going on.
You're okay.
I'm not getting any. I'm not getting my my computer to cooperate. So yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so right now I'm just going to let everybody know that the 5 areas that you can report to in the event of we have an evacuation, you can come back to the marina at Dam West. You've got the Carlisle Sailing Association, which is point 2, the Trade Winds Marina, which is in Keysport. You've got Boulder Marina, which is point 14, and then the Coles Creek Boat Ramp, which is point 16. And now I'm going to advance the slide here, Doug, and we're going to see, first of all, the Dam West Marina. So if you want to talk to the group about that, I'll go ahead and let you do so.
Yeah. So yeah, when you go into the Dam West Marina, it's going to be the marina right around the corner from where we're launching boats. When you go into the marina, the safe harbor area you'll want to go to is up by the main fuel dock. You'll see it. There'll be someone there to tell you exactly which slip to go into, but you're just going to pull into there by the main fuel dock, and they'll direct you where to go, and then there's a building they have up there to go for your safe harbor.
And the building here on this slide is marked with an X. So
yes,
like Doug
yes,
said, you see all the slips there. There will be somebody there to direct you to where you can tie up and then get inside. And like you said, that is right by where we launched. Now the next area is the Carlisle Sailing Association. And I believe that's point
Kurt,
2,
can
Doug?
I jump in real quick, Kurt? Are we
Sure.
supposed to be seeing something on our screen right now, a presentation of some sort?
Yes. Right now you should be seeing the slide that shows Carlisle Sailing Association.
All right.
Are you seeing that? Okay.
I'll find
Go ahead.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So Doug, the Carlisle Sailing Association?
Yes, so Carlisle Sailing Association is when you pull into the cove, you're going to see a series of long docks out in the water. You can tie up to any of those docks. Just if there's boats there, just obviously avoid the area where the sailboats would be tied up. Park on those docks, and then there's a walkway that goes up to the parking lot, and then your person will be there getting your boat number. And we'll direct you up to the main office of the Sailing Association, which is right up the hill.
Okay. And we see where that person will be there by the big parking lot and directing people how to get to the building.
Yeah, there's a big retaining wall there that drops off. The person will be you can't miss it. They'll be right there on the top.
Sure. And then we go to Keysport or the Trade Winds Marina.
Yes. So Trade Winds Marina, they actually have 2 harbors. There's a harbor with a set of covered docks. That is the you have to go around to the north, around the north breakwater, but that you'll park in those docks. Obviously, there's several open spots there to park. Park in those docks, and then you'll go around the walkway. There's a walkway there with a gate on it. The person checking your boat number will be right there on that walkway, and then they have a big, tall office where you see the X up there. That will be your safe harbor.
And then we have Boulder Marina.
Yes. Boulder Marina is really a popular one. There'll probably be a lot of guys up there if we have to go somewhere. So there's a lot of empty slips in there. If you park in any slips you can pull in any slip in here if you have to get out. They prefer one without there's boxes at on the docks. If you can park with one without a dry box on it, that's preferred. But pull in one of those slips. There's a fuel dock right on the end. You'll see it. It's really easy to see. You pull in one of those slips, tie up, and then you'll walk up the walkway. You can see the office right above the red X there. That's the main office, and that's where you go.
Okay. And then finally, we have the Coles Creek boat ramp.
Yeah, so this is a little bit different than the rest. There's no marina here. This is just basically a beach with a shower building up. You can see when you pull around the corner there into the cove, you see where the X is on the beach. You can just pull up anywhere on the sand. There's some riprap there on the side, so you want to watch that. But pull up on the sand portion of the beach, and then that's where your person will be getting your boat number, and then you just walk up to that shower building, and then that shower building will be unlocked. It's a big block building that's safe to go in storms, so that's where you go.
Okay. So those are the 5 areas, and as Doug said, there will be staff, tournament staff at any of those. If we need to, if the message goes out, there will be tournament staff there to check everybody's boat in. And I can assure you, as those folks are calling in the boat numbers, we're marking them down. And if we can't account for your boat, we're going to be constantly trying to get a hold of you. I'm going to call your school administration, who's going to be trying to call you. So keep those phones handy, particularly if, you folks are smart. You've been on the water enough to be able to tell if the weather's going to possibly start to turn. So, Doug, do you want to talk then for a minute about no fishing zones and any areas that are off limits?
Yeah, so all the marinas have fuel docks. They're marked really well. There'll be signs. We need to stay away from all that. Definitely, stay away while we're in the marinas too. You can fish around the docks. Just have courtesy. Don't be, try to avoid hitting any boats or any docks, please. The marina owners always stress that. Also, on the main dam, you cannot fish beyond the main dam buoy line. That's a really obvious one to see. And then right there at Dam West Boat Ramp where we're taking off, I think there's a slide on there that shows the line where from the point to the high water ramp is off limits. That's where everybody would switch out their alternates. So that whole box inside of that cove is off limits.
And you'll see that here in just a second. And the other thing I would mention is on both days when your boat is taking off, we'll have a release boat just past this breakwater area at Dam West. You need to take your boat past that before you would decide if you're going to go somewhere close to the break area and fish. You can't just sort of go out and curl around and start fishing. You got to get past the boat, and then you can double back if you wish. And here we see then what this looks like. This red line indicates that end of the breakwater or break wall to the high boat ramp, and inside of that, where you see that one boat sort of inside of there, that would be off limits. And pretty much that area where that one lone boat is, that's pretty much where people hang out. Maybe they hang out a little bit before we launch out there to the side on the other side of that red line, the left side of that red line. But that area you see there is off limits. And you can see in sort of the, not quite the bottom left corner, but on the left-hand side of that picture, there's that, again, that building you would report to if you reported to the Dam West area in the event that there was weather. You'd dock or you'd tie up and be directed into that building.
Yeah, the office building has a big black top on it. You can see it there on the left-hand side.
Okay. So again, safety is our number one priority. And so, Doug, if you just want to talk about some of the, from sort of a overview perspective of some of the things regarding speed limits and jackets and the no wake zones and the tracks, the railroad tracks there on the north end of the lake.
Yep. So there is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit to be observed at all times. That's definitely want to keep it safe there. Obviously wear your life jacket with your kill switch attached. I think everyone knows that. On the life jackets, all of your Coast Guard approved life jackets will work. If there's any questions on any of them that you have, when we do boat safety checks on Thursday morning, there will be either one of our guys or a conservation officer there. So make sure, they'll check everything out. They'll check all your jackets and stuff out to make sure that they are approved and they will work. There's a lot of no wake zones on the lake. Some of them are really long. There's one in Pepin Horse Branch. There's one in Coles Creek. North Harbor, there's a lot of long no wake zones to get to the back of some of the coves. Just make sure you please obey those markers. They're marked well. I think all the buoys should be out. So sometimes when you're idle back into those coves, it takes a while. But the reason, a lot of underwater stumps and debris in there, so we want you to be safe there. Also, I said before, if you're fishing in marinas, please be courteous to the boat owners. There's also some sets of private docks, some community docks that you can fish around, but please be courteous to the folks there. There will probably be a lot of bank fishermen in them areas. They're still catching a lot of crappie, so there'll be a lot of the people that own those docks fishing in there. So if they're sitting on the dock or they're sitting on the bank, please just be courteous. Give them room, go around them. Plenty of water out there for us all to fish. And then also, if you go north of the railroad tracks, everybody knows pretty much probably what that means. Be careful. Use caution. The lake will be up a little bit, but it's definitely, not safe to run if you don't know where you're going. And we just want you to use caution and be careful.
Okay, we talked, Doug, about the boat safety check. So I reminded everyone that your team will have the forms, so the schools don't need to bring those. I did remind everybody to review those just to make sure they've got everything. It's amazing. There's always a handful of boats that don't have things like anchors or air horns or whatever it might be. So make sure you've got all that ready to be checked. And only the boats that are going to be captained by the school approved individual are going to be checked. We talked about only the number of boats you're going to have in the tournament can be put on the water, even on pre-fish day. And then, of course, everyone's got to be in their life jackets. So one last reminder about the boat safety checks there. And now, Doug, we're on the slide that talks people through or shows them how we want them to line up prior to launching and coming into the launch area. So if you want to take them through that.
Right. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the Dam West boat ramp area, when you come in, you'll probably come in the road by McDonald's, Walmart McDonald's area. I'm assuming that's called William Road. you'll come down that road, and one of the main things that the main issues we had was we don't want to block that road or congest traffic on that road, because it gets pretty sketchy. There's not much shoulder there. So when you get there in the morning, the gate will probably be closed to get into the boat ramp. But what we want you to do is we want you to go past the boat ramp, and I'm going to have guys there to help do this, but we want you to go past the boat ramp to the south, and you'll go around. Our office has a circle drive. I want you to go take that circle drive and head back up and enter into the boat ramp entrance road from the south. You'll just line up along the side of the road and come in from that way. And then that's where you're going to make sure you have everything ready, have your gear in the boat, have your transom savers off, have your tie straps, get all that stuff off there. Then that way when you go down into the boat ramp, as you can see how those arrows go, that's the way you're going to go in, is enter the boat ramp from the south and then go into the ramp that way. That way we don't congest that crossroad up there. But there will be people there to direct you. Once it gets flowing, it's really smooth.
And there will also be, I just want to use this slide to point out a couple of things. Doug talked about coming up from the south. That's sort of the longer green arrow here, the first one, if you will. Then there are those two short green arrows, and you see just past them, that's a parking lot that gets used for your trucks and trailers. And that's where most of you, after you get your boat in the water, will go back and park. For those of you that need help getting either, back from the parking lot to the launch area, we'll also have staff on some gators helping transport people. So, that all runs really, like Doug said, really smoothly, but that's where you'll be directed to likely park. There could be some overflow parking that happens at the hotel, which is just cut out of this picture in that upper left-hand corner. But everything is sort of right there, and it makes for a real easy experience with the launch and then the return. Okay, Doug, we've got your number here in case anybody has any questions. I'll leave that up, or at least your office number.
Yeah.
In case they have questions over the next 48 hours or whatever.
Yeah, I want to add to that. My extension at that number is 119. So when it comes to the automated system, just hit 119. It'll come directly to me. If I don't answer, just leave me a message. I'll be back, and I'll give you a call back just as soon as I can. But anytime this week, feel free to give me a call.
Thank you. And then I'm going to open it up here for question here. Just a second. I just want to point out again, this presentation, I'm recording it. I will send out an email tomorrow letting everybody know where they can find this if they want to watch it again, or if your school administration wants to view it. If you have questions, you can email me. My cell number was in there earlier, so hopefully you got that. But right now, I'll go ahead and just sort of pause. I think we got about 58, 59 people on here. It might be easier to use the chat in case, because we don't talk all at once, but I'm open for questions here, however you want to bring them my way. You'll have to unmute yourself, though, if you're going to ask the question and instead of typing it. But I'm going to go look in the chat here and see what we've got first.
Kurt, I've got one question, if I may.
Go ahead.
On pre-fish day, I've got 3 students and 1 boat. Do I need to have 2 fishermen at once and switch with them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you said the coach is eligible to fish, but there can only be 2 people fishing at once. Is that accurate?
If your question is, if a coach is fishing, does that make 3 and are we going to be in trouble? The answer is no. No, you can have 2 anglers in the boat fishing, okay? If a coach is out in the boat with them and is fishing, that is fine as well.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Had a question in the chat that I just answered about the school representative. Do they have to be down at the ramp at takeoff? And again, if they're not at the ramp, then I just need to know where they're going to be in case we need to find them. So I'm assuming they must be somewhere in town. Maybe they're at a hotel. Maybe they're checking some email. I don't know, but we will need to know where they're at. Can the students back off the boat during launch, or do I need to find someone to assist? Can you help me out, Clayton, with that? I should probably know what you're trying to say there.
Yeah. Can they operate the big motor?
I don't think we've allowed that. We've allowed them to run a smaller motor and just sort of mill about over by the wall there.
So in essence, if they're backing up, if they back off and they take the trolling motor, they can move around. They just
Yep.
can't be on the big motor.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question. Can you have 2 coaches in the boat on Friday and Saturday? You can have the most number of people you're going to have in a boat is 4. And everybody's different in terms of how they categorize these coaches and boat captains. So if you have somebody who's drives your boat and is also sort of considered a coach, and then you've got another coach in the boat with the 2 anglers, that's fine. But if your boat captain is somebody totally different from one of your 2 or 3 coaches, then the answer would be no, because you've got somebody driving the boat, you'd have your 2 anglers, that's up to 3, and then a coach would be the 4th person.
Hey, Kurt,
Mhm.
Coach Evans, Streamwood, I was looking at it, docks. If there's a boat in it, it's off limits. And if it's open to fish. Because it seemed like it's going back and forth. So I just want to make sure if there's like a boat in it, I'm not fishing it, but if there's just a slip there, I can fish it. Yes or no?
As long as it's not around a fuel pump, that's correct.
Okay.
Good question on, is there a designated area for anglers who are not out fishing? You know, we don't have one. And we really don't even let them cast off the breaker wall there at Dam West. It's maybe something we need to consider for the future to have sort of an area for those folks, but right now we do not have an area for those folks to do anything if they're not on the boat on the water.
My old coach used to go below the dam and fish.
Carlisle coach here. Right below the spillway is a good spot to go. Just keep them occupied, and also the pond straight across from there. It's by the hotel. There's a pond there. A lot of the high school kids will fish there, and they don't mind kids fishing there, just as long as they're not being silly or anything.
Kurt, I have a question.
Okay.
Kirk Rush, Stevenson High School. just to clarify what you were talking about with boat slips, I thought you said initially that we can fish around boats. We just have to be courteous. And the answer to the question you gave before sounded like you said we can't fish a slip that has a boat in it. We have to fish unboated slips. Which way is it?
Okay, well, I think I didn't say that the one part. I think that was Doug talking about people who could be sitting on docks and
Okay.
fishing, and he said to just go around those folks and give them their sort of way type of deal. The question that I thought I was answering was if somebody went into one of the marinas and there were open slips, can they fish in there? And the answer is yes, as long as they're not fishing around a fuel pump, which should be marked very easy to see. So how I want to try to answer your question, Kirk. So does that cloud things up more, or does that
A little
help?
bit. So so if there's a boat in a slip, we should not fish it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
correct.
That answers it. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew's asking a really good question. He's asking, so is there absolutely no operating of the outboard motor by the students to load or unload, even if they're IDNR certified? We have not, I think as I reflect on that question, there's a difference in if that happens, are they going to be kicked out of the tournament? And the answer is no, but we haven't really felt a need to have that happen. So Andrew, I'm going to specifically ask you, do you need some help in this capacity, or what is it that we need to know? What is maybe giving you pause to think they just can't operate the small motor, the trolling motor, and just sort of wait for you to come back to the area?
Can you hear me?
I can.
It's not about coming back to the area. If I back my trailer into the water, can my son, who is IDNR certified to operate the boat, pull it onto the trailer? You can't really do that with the trolling motor.
Yes, that can happen at the end of the day. Yep, nobody's going to be in any trouble if that happens at the end of the day. No problem.
Normally in tournaments, I have him just jog with the big motor off the dock. And then when I walk down, he pulls in, picks me up, and then I take over. Just jogging with the big motor, not using the trolling motor. But he went through the classes and got certified and everything. So I guess I'm wondering, and if it's not between tournament hours from 7 to 3:15 or whenever we're due back, if it's outside those hours, it doesn't, consider him running it during the tournament. And is that a problem?
I don't know what you mean. I gotta be honest with you. When you say not between 7 and 3:15, I think I just said I don't see it as being a problem, but I guess it sounds to me like you're talking about when you're bringing the boat off the water, you might need a little help from your son who's DNR certified, running that motor just to get you on the trailer so you can get off the water. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Not a problem at all.
Okay.
I think we're talking about two different things when we talk about running with the outboard motor and just given what you described to help out getting the boat off the water.
And I think that was asked earlier. Somebody asked that question. I'm just trying to clarify that a little bit. If we back the boat in and my son takes it off the trailer, can he just jog with the big motor until we get back and
Sure.
get ready for the tournament? You know what I mean?
Sure, but no offense, Andrew. Now you shifted the question. First, you were asking about, well, we're coming off the water. Now we're going into the water. And so I do want to point out that I'm catching that. This really shouldn't be that difficult, and so it's not. If some high schooler needs to, for a few seconds, get a boat onto a trailer or off a trailer to get it in the water, and they are running the outboard motor, no one is going to be penalized. No one is going to be kicked out of the tournament. I'm assuming once they have either gotten onto the trailer or just gotten off the trailer, they're going to be able to sort of slow her down and get on the smaller motor and get over where they can get somebody picked up. Or am I mistaken?
No, that's clear enough for me.
All right.
So Kurt, then that doesn't make any difference about the IDNR certified.
No, it
Right.
doesn't make any difference about IDNR
Because
certified.
that's commonly what we do at most tournaments. We have a good system to do it. And we just want to make sure we're following the rules and not
I hear ya.
making a mistake.
I know, and I'm not trying to be frustrated. We're not gonna let anybody do anything that's gonna get them in trouble. While we do have these terms and conditions we follow, we're really not over the top with it. So
Yeah, no, and I understand that. I assume that.
I
the
also
other-
know
the
there's a
other,
fine line between some common sense and other things, and people hear what they want to hear sometimes, but no, we're really pretty level-headed folks. The
Yeah, no, I
team that
appreciate
Doug
that.
and others have is really good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Kurt, I'm gonna cut
Yeah.
in too. There also for anyone who may need help, there will be people there that can back a trailer in for you. So there'll be some guys there that are more than happy to assist with backing trailers in.
100%. Yep. So we have a question here. There were boats last week running on plane in the no wake. How would we handle that if observed by a tournament boat? That would be up to that boat to decide if they want to write up an appeal. That's exactly how that would happen, Clayton. So that coach, if that were you that observed that boat running on plane in a no wake area, you'd come find me. I'd give you an appeal form. You'd write it up. I'd bring our games and rules committee together. We'd investigate it, and eventually that group would render a decision. And I'm glad you asked that because I'd forgotten to mention the committee will be comprised of tournament staff, myself, and Scott Stewart. And then the following coaches will also be a part of that. Now, if one of these schools was involved in a situation, they would obviously be recused from the group. Excuse me, but Chad Parks from Heron, Seth Hill from Waverly, Rob Beckman from Dunlap, and then Nasa Downs from Mount Zion. The 6 of those people will represent the committee this weekend. So that's how you would handle that, Clayton. I hope that you talked to somebody about it last week, for no other reason than to let them know. You know, that's sort of how this event runs. You know, it's we've got to at some level police ourselves. Well, sort of feels like Doug's contact again. You know, Doug, you don't have the ability to put that in the chat, so I will. I still got this screen up here. I'm going to go back and let. You said your extension, Doug, was 119.
Yes, 119. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and type it in here just for fun.
Kurt, I just got your email.
Did you? Sure. Of course
Sure,
you did.
Yeah. Yeah, we just got it.
All right. So there's Doug's number if you need him. Boom, right there. And I'll keep that up. You can get that in the chat. But otherwise, you know, we got 48 hours or so until we'll start running into each other on Thursday morning. I would just hope everybody has safe travels down to Carlisle. If you have any questions, please let me know. I may have to redirect you to somebody. but we will get you an answer. We want this to be a good experience for you and your students. These were great questions tonight, and I hope you found there to be some value in this meeting. But otherwise, I'm gonna, we've sort of ended our time here. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording, and I'm gonna call the meeting to a